Piracy was supposed to be dead. Not sleeping dead, I mean buried next to Napster, LimeWire, and that one cousin's laptop that sounded like a jet engine because it was 90% malware and 10% Shrek 2 rips. For a while, it really looked like the funeral stuck. Netflix showed up with every movie you could imagine for the price of a Domino's special. Spotify made pirating MP3s feel like digging through the trash when someone just handed you a buffet. And collectively, we all decided maybe stealing movies wasn't worth potentially bricking the family PC. But then 2025 arrived and basically said, surprise, the corpse is walking again. Piracy isn't just alive, it's thriving. In 2024 alone, piracy sites racked up 216 billion visits. That's more clicks than Netflix, Disney Plus, and HBO Max combined, which is hilarious, considering those are the exact companies that were supposed to kill piracy off in the first place. Here's the kicker. 76% of Gen Z openly admits to pirating while still paying for subscriptions, which basically means, yes, I give Netflix $20 a month. But I'm also streaming Game of Thrones in 4K from some teenager's server in Prague. It's called balance. So congratulations to the streaming giants. You pulled off the impossible. You won the piracy war, declared victory, and then managed to lose it again. To understand why piracy is back, you've got to rewind to why it blew up in the first place. The 2000s were basically the Wild West of the internet. BitTorrent alone ate up a third of all global traffic. LimeWire had more monthly users than Facebook. And the Pirate Bay, that was Blockbuster. If Blockbuster was free, open 24/7, and occasionally gave your computer something that required digital antibiotics. At its peak, around 95% of all music downloads were pirated. Not because millions of people suddenly became criminal masterminds, but because it was cheaper and easier. $10 bought you one CD at Walmart, or the exact same $10 could fill your iPod with 2,000 sketchy MP3s labeled things like Final Mix V2, definitely not virus. Most people did the math, and most people chose the sketchy option. And honestly, it wasn't even that hard to justify. If you lived in Australia, half the movies didn't show up until 6 months after the US. If you were broke, your choice was between dropping $19.99 for Shrek 2 on DVD or leaving your PC overnight to download a shaky cam version with Russian subtitles and some guy coughing in the theater. Spoiler, most of us picked the cough. So no, piracy wasn't a morality problem. It was an access problem, and for a while it was winning. Then came the twist nobody saw coming. Streaming. Suddenly piracy looked like the dumb kid in class. Why bother with sketchy torrent sites, pop-ups about singles in your area, and a file called SpongeBob Sexy Time Final V3, when Netflix was giving you everything in HD for $8.99. Netflix was basically the messiah. One subscription, every show, no commercials, no overnight downloads that ended with Russian subtitles. Spotify did the same for music. For the first time, it was actually easier to be legal than to pirate. And convenience always wins. The numbers told the story. In 2011, BitTorrent traffic accounted for 31% of all internet traffic. By 2015, it had dropped below 5%. Spotify killed music piracy so thoroughly that global music piracy rates fell by over 80% between 2010 and 2018. Netflix pulled off the same trick for video, making people nostalgic for Blockbuster without the late fees. Even parents who once called Netflix the Netflix figured out how to binge an entire season in one night and blame it on autoplay. Between 2012 and 2018, U.S. streaming subscriptions more than tripled, while DVD sales collapsed by 86%. For a brief window, it really looked like the entertainment industry had cracked the code. Piracy wasn't dead, but it was irrelevant. Of course, this is the part where corporations looked at their own success and said, perfect, let's ruin it. And then, right on schedule, the corporations got greedy. Because if there's one thing billion-dollar companies hate more than piracy, it's customers being happy. Netflix looked around and said, wait a second, people love this. Better ruin it. Prices climb. Disney pulled its catalog to launch its own service. HBO rebranded so many times it forgot what it was called. Peacock showed up, uninvited, like the weird cousin at family dinner. Suddenly your favorite shows weren't under one roof anymore. They were scattered like Pokemon cards across half a dozen subscriptions. Remember when streaming was supposed to be the cheaper, simpler alternative to cable? Joke's on us. Now it costs more than cable, with clunkier apps, broken search bars, and buffering wheels that spin long enough for you to reconsider your life choices. Congrats! We reinvented the very thing we were running from. Except now, you need a spreadsheet to track which platform has The Office this month. And of course, it didn't stop there. Password sharing, which Netflix once called love, suddenly became theft. Ad-free became ad-light. Disney started deleting its own shows just to avoid paying the creators who made them. Imagine handing over your money only to watch the company you paid actively erase the thing you wanted. That's not a business model. That's corporate gaslighting. So yeah, streaming managed the speed run from hero to villain. And in the process, they achieved something nobody thought possible. They made piracy look like the good guy again. Yeah, they basically made Diddy look like the good guy. And that should tell you everything. So piracy walked back in like the ex who got hot after you dumped them. Only this time, it wasn't the janky LimeWire version with half your computer on fire. Modern piracy sites look cleaner than half the streaming apps. No ads, no region locks, no disappearing shows, and, this part really hurts, the search bar actually works. Want to watch a movie that got removed for cost cutting? It's there. Want an entire cartoon library Disney pretends never existed? Already archived. Meanwhile, the paid services give you error screens and tell you to upgrade your plan. It's like paying for bottled water while pirates are handing out free champagne. And the irony, piracy didn't win. Streaming handed it the crown. By splitting content, raising prices, deleting shows, and policing families over passwords, the billion-dollar companies basically said, please, for the love of God, go back to pirating. And people listened, so here we are again. Piracy isn't dead. It's not even guilty anymore. It's just the better option. Disney managed to lose $387 million in one quarter. Warner Brothers torched $10 billion, and Paramount bled $1.6 billion, while Netflix still pockets $8.7 billion a year by selling less and charging more under the label of innovation. Investors cheer, customers cancel. And for viewers, it's not about being evil, it's about convenience. A 2023 survey showed 22% of U.S. households admit to pirating, nearly 40% for Gen Z, who don't even see it as theft, but as a Yelp review in torrent form. The industry has two choices: fix streaming or double down on stupidity. And if you've ever met a corporation, you already know which one they'll pick, which is why analysts expect $13 billion in losses by 2027. The war on piracy isn't just lost, it's forfeited. If the industry actually wanted to fix this, the solutions aren't rocket science. Consolidate content so people don't need 6 subscriptions. Stop erasing shows people already paid for. Ease up on the nickel and diming with ads and password crackdowns. And maybe, just maybe, price things so families don't need a calculator to watch TV. Do that, and piracy becomes irrelevant again. Don't, and you're basically running free advertising for pirate sites. So here we are. Piracy didn't come back because people got greedier, it came back because corporations did. If a teenager's server in Prague runs smoother than billion-dollar platforms, maybe the wrong side is winning. Call it theft if you want. But the real piracy is charging $100 a month to delete your favorite show. And speaking of getting robbed without noticing, let's talk about money. Student, 9-to-5 worker, or business owner, your paycheck disappears faster than Netflix deletes shows, subscriptions, delivery apps, free trials you forgot to cancel. Suddenly your bank account looks pirated too. That's where a budget manager comes in. It keeps students from spending rent on pizza, helps workers stretch payday past Friday, and stops businesses from burning cash. Basically, it plugs the leaks. Check the link in the description.